Communications Committee on Monday, the 11th of July. First of all, do we have any apologies for absence? We're all here, aren't we? Yeah. Any declarations of interest? Nope. Any peculiar interest? No. Item 4, minutes of last meeting. First of all, is everyone happy that this is a true reflection of what happened at the last meeting? Did somebody propose something? And second, and show of hands to say they're approved.
Sorry, I missed you second to that.
Yeah. Thank you. Right, so matters arising. Jubilee events budget. We resolved to hold profits from this year's Jubilee. One thing has arisen about the bookmarks that we distributed, and there has been some people asking for more, and I'm wondering whether we should perhaps purchase some more bookmarks to sell at cost price. What anything else needs?
How much of a interest do we have? Because we got the price we got because we bought 4-figure numbers. If we're buying 10, there'll be substantially more.
And so maybe we could buy 100, and because we could also sell them at the book sale and things like that. And
It
then
would depend on the cost.
the cost.
Yeah, it's a good idea because there'll always be something to hand out and something that's there. The trouble is like you say, bulk buying, wasn't it? And if we've got to get the optimum number for the price. So
people might pay £3. I don't think that we have to pay £5.
Exactly. So would a suggestion be to authorise the clerk to purchase some if we can get them for under £3 each, or 100, or
I'm just trying to have a look and see if I can find some up-to-date figures for you.
Do you know what we paid for the last one?
Well,
It was 290 something.
yeah, with that.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need to worry about that, do we?
No, get that back.
While Michelle's investigating that, the other item I wanted to raise was that we obviously came in under budget, and we have shared with full council our expenditure. I'm wondering whether we should share that with the community. I know it is accessible on our town council website, but do we think that we should actually inform the community that this is what our budget was and this is what we spent on the Jubilee celebrations as a matter of...
I think it's good to be open. However, I think then it sets, are we going to do this for every event?
Yeah. We set a precedent.
However big or small, it sets a precedent.
Yes, it does set a precedent.
So I think having a situation where somebody wants to contact us, then we'll be open and transparent with that, use Phil's language. But I think we're creating work not just for us but for Michelle to be producing profit and loss reports for every single event that we do.
Totally agree with you.
So if anybody is watching, those figures are available anyway. They're in the public domain. We have showed them at full council. So I don't have any other comments on matters online. Yes, I do. Community newsletter. It was resolved that councillors Redfern, Lane and Smith would be happy to form a group, and that hasn't happened yet. I do apologise. So perhaps we could set a date now for our first get together to discuss the community newsletter. When would be convenient? I know that you work, so an evening we've got.
Yeah, I reckon
so.
Just look at my calendar.
Okay.
while we're looking at the calendar, there were set criteria, wasn't it, that you were looking at?
Yes.
So there's a clear agenda for what you'll be talking about.
Yeah. So and we were going to feed back to you tonight, and we're not feeding back because we haven't got Kelly yet. Terribly sorry about that.
Yeah.
What about next week after environment?
Next week, week the 18th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Would that be all right with you after environment then? So when environment finishes, the three of us will get together Yep, okay, excellent, so that's,
So that's councillor Wenham, councillor Lane, councillor Smith.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's matters arising, so moving on, public participation. Item 7, update on art exhibition. Now, I was going to type this all out and send it all out to you, but then I thought, I don't know if you'd read it. Michelle and I spent a very good afternoon with a lady who has organised the art exhibitions here in the past. So I just wanted to feed back to you some of her comments. The boards are double-sided, they're 4x3. She recommends that we rent out each side of the board. The artists come along and hang the pictures themselves, so we don't have to do that. She suggested we call a raffle and fundraise within it. The artist will need to do a disclaimer for any damage, etc. Manning it, she's suggesting that we have one person actually taking the money and one person floating, so that's a minimum of 2 people. But as we're doing it over 2 days, we thought we could break it down to just 2-hourly shifts with volunteers. We suggested a preview evening, which I think we did discuss amongst ourselves before, which she said was a very good idea. And in the past, when they've done that, they've had some music playing, local entertainment. So that's another thought. Just, but she didn't say about selling tickets, did she? I think she said.
Because I think we said, but that includes cheese and biscuits and a glass of wine. So it's a little bit more work if you're going to do the food, and also sometimes you get more people in, I think, just by having something free really, and then they'll buy a drink when they're in here anyway.
I've been to preview movies here, and I just remember coming in and having a look and buying one and going back out again and getting a raffle ticket by the same time. I can't remember anything fancy,
Yeah.
you know, and I have been to the Friday nights, evenings. I can't remember anything other than coming in and having a look around.
I think it's simple. We can keep it better. You know, I don't know what everyone else thinks. Like you say, just come in. The other thing, which that's what I don't know what everyone else thinks, not surprising, is at some exhibitions, if you buy a picture, you have to leave it there.
You have to leave it there, yeah.
But she suggests that we don't do that. We let people
Take
take
a
them.
go, which surprised
And
It
then,
surprises me.
and then it's up to the artist to come and restock if they want to. So that's another decision that we have to make, whether we're going to say to people, could you leave the painting?
It's unusual, but it's quite logistically it's much easier for us because someone can pay for their painting and take it out the door, and we're not going to worry about plating it. I'm sorry. But secondly, it does mean that if an artist is doing particularly well and they have a box of stock, every time they sell one, they can put them on their board. So.
Is there a, sorry, is there a danger that the boards will just be empty?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd
that's
like to suggest that we ask the artist to leave painting there, and we put a card or something on saying sold, so people know that was being
We've got a
sold.
red dot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever,
that's what we
yeah.
always
Red
used
dot,
to do.
yeah.
Because, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
there's a
red
chance
dot.
that, you know, people, they'll be selling, and some of the artists only have, you know, a couple of paintings, and before you know it, you've got, you know,
Empty boards.
yeah,
Empty board.
and people come and say, oh, wouldn't that look very good, there wasn't much to say, or something, you know, on the second day. So, yeah, if we could sort of do a red dot or something, just to kind of ask the artists, you know.
So there's some other sort of, but they sound minor things, but I know that Michelle has organised these things before and it makes so much sense. Apparently there has been controversy about who has what board in the past. And she said she resolved this by she had a box with numbers in, and as each artist comes in, they pull their number out of the hat, and that's what board they're on. So
Is this adults or primary?
Well, this is just what I was thinking. Are they grown ups or children? Same as goes through my mind.
she also suggests we have envelopes with the name of each person on each artist, and as someone pays, you can put the money in that envelope and you can fantastic. We did have an issue about at the moment we'd have to be cash only, but we were looking to getting a machine, weren't you?
So this is something I was going to ask for guidance on from some of the sort of councils that have been around for longer. Can I just go off and get quotes and get us a card machine because it's operational, or do I have to come to council to ask for a card machine? Because I do think it's operational, and I think it's silly that we don't have one.
I would, sorry, go on.
What transactions, what cash transactions do you do on a day-to-day basis where you're taking money in?
Well, at the moment, if someone, for instance, wants to book a party on Saturday night and they have to give us a £300 damage deposit, they have to come and do it in cash, and then we hold the cash, and then have to come back and get the cash. Things like that.
There's lots of companies that provide card machines. It's not like when you have to used to go to the big banks or whatever. There's loads of third-party
there's
companies.
not.
They will take a slice, so we need to be aware that you're
Yeah,
going to lose
yeah.
a little bit of it.
I would say, I think a card machine in this day and age is essential when you're handing money upstairs with the hire of the hall and the other things, you know, going on. I just do think
And
it
so,
would make life so much easier for everybody if there was.
I think so. And also, sorry, Councillor
In fact, I was just going to say, I suggest that we do bring this before full council. Because it's going to be a cost to the council, but, you know, using the machine.
Well,
Yeah,
I would have worked out absorbing that, but okay.
I think the best thing to do is get quotes and then we can introduce it in the way that we did it this morning. This afternoon, where it's will be meeting or something, just to make sure that people are aware. But that will move things forward rather than hanging around.
And also, if we get some of them are quite portable, and I've already looked at some prices. Yeah, Zettles one, Squares one, that are quite
Yeah,
portable like that.
Sum
Up's another
Yeah.
one. And if you want to do more events, and we might do more things on the square, that would then give you the ability
It
to
would.
take it out there and use
It's a
it.
no-brainer, we should have it.
We should.
So I will get some quotes then, and I'll bring it to the next council. That is very tight for us to have
So,
something.
you see, this is what I was going to say, is there any way we could add it to the extraordinary meeting for next Monday?
No, but I can do a different extraordinary meeting. If we're in the mind for those. So one of the rules of extraordinary meetings is that you can have one agenda item. But I'm quite happy to do another one.
Why not?
Why
Yes,
not?
I think so.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise it's going to be beginning
Sooner
of
the
August.
better. Sooner it's in and sit.
Yeah, that's fine, I'll do that.
Yeah, okay, so that's going to sort that one out.
I did have one more bit of correspondence on this since we've been to see Janet.
Yeah.
Which was that she has been approached by a couple of people that do alternative things such as sculpture, and we're really happy for people like that to have a table. I think, yeah.
Yes,
Oh.
yeah. Yes.
Now, Janet kindly gave us a layout for the whole hall of when they've done it. And what she said, which is something we could well adopt from the book fairs, they start the exhibition at the door, literally. So there's no table as you walk in, because otherwise people think they've got to pay. And so the exhibition starts at the door, and then down this end of the room they do tea and coffees and sculptures. I think she said they'd had them round the corner by the.
Well, she said you can have a display there, but that would be the ideal place. to
Yeah,
have
it's not around the
sculptures.
corner. And the other thing she suggested was in the committee room that you invite craft exhibition. So one thing we did talk about was perhaps approaching Sue's work basket and see if there's anybody who wants to display their work that isn't necessarily painting or acrylic or oils, but is some other form. So there is another option to do that in there. I'm just reading through the notes. Children's boards. I had approached the schools previously, and they break up quite soon. So obviously this week we've been saying they want stuff exhibited because this is August bank holiday, and they will broken up by the weekend. But there was also a suggestion about contacting community groups and nursing homes to see if there's anything they would like to display art-wise. The Lighthouse group, they might want to. I think, how did we work out? How many boards? 48, wasn't it?
I thought she said 26 and they're double-sided.
That's 52. She said she can fill them all. I mean, she's already
She's already filled 16 for us.
yeah, but she said I would have no problem filming all, but as this is supposed to be a community thing, I think it would be nice to have not just people selling art, but people displaying art right from the Littleys all the way through. Anybody got any thoughts on that?
It can't just be an art exhibition then. Art and craft,
Yeah.
because it's false advertising.
What does everyone think?
Nothing else, you can't.
Yeah, I'd say arts and
Some,
crafts.
yeah.
I agree, especially since
The whole
we're
thing.
considering getting other things other than paintings involved,
Yeah.
then it is not just, you know, paintings anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so okay, art and crafts. Then
If you put arts and sculptures, and there might be not, there'll be other things, but that breaks down that it's not just art.
But I think sculpture is art.
Yeah.
Sculpture
Yes,
is
but
art.
I'm just, yeah, I didn't mean that, I meant you're having craft as well.
if we had,
And I just thought if you just put art and sculptures, you can cut out the craft bit, because, I mean, not have it. I don't mean not have it, yeah. I don't mean not have the craft things, but don't push that as much as the art and sculptures. I think that is,
I think just focus, whether you have the sculptures, craft, but just call it art.
but just put it art, yeah.
Because when you start getting into the realms of it's an art and craft one,
and I
people's
don't want the craft.
Yeah,
expectations that
I don't want the craft.
an art
Yeah.
exhibition, you go along, you look at paintings
Stick
or
with
pieces
the
of art
stick to-
and you buy them.
Yeah.
Craft, who knows what
No.
you're gonna get.
No, I wouldn't want craft
Also,
on
she's
there.
already got signs made up for art exhibitions. So
So we've already done with posters, but I can change them.
yeah, Joe.
They do crafts on the square area or craft fairs every other month.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so is it going to be a painting exhibition
Yeah.
or an art? Well, art
Stick to the
sculptures
art.
come into art anyway.
Stick to art. I agree with that. Insurance and risk assessment. Michelle will look into that. Also, she gave us some practical advice about what the artists have to put on the label. They need to identify the painter, the title of the painting, the medium, themselves, contact phone number and price. So they.
No, it was just risk assessment. I can understand it if you've got a big heavy sculpture that might land on someone, a fall. But if we've got a picture pinned onto one of our walls that we've put up, not sure what level of
I
risk
think
assessment.
it's, my only
necessary.
concern would be people tripping over boards.
Okay, but that's our risk assessment rather than
Yeah.
an individual.
Yeah.
And in
Oh,
terms of
yeah, no, it
insurance-
is ours, sorry.
Okay.
It is ours,
And-
not theirs.
In terms of insurance, in what way would they require insurance? Because they're not actually doing anything, they're just pinning them
It
up
would
and.
be if their paintings got stolen overnight.
Okay, I'm with you.
Good.
Yes, I'm
They
thinking
get stolen,
PLI.
I can
Yeah,
claim on
no.
insurance, I guess.
Fair enough, okay. No, I was thinking public liability insurance.
Another point was raised about facilities and hobbies, which, as you know, we have done ourselves at the book sale, which, you know, is fine to do, but wondering about inviting, maybe the Women's Institute, if they would like to do them, which would take that responsibility.
Or we said maybe WI one day heritage the other day,
Heritage
something
next,
like that.
what's everyone's thoughts on that?
Mm. It'd be lovely.
Would-
If one would do it one way and one would do it the other day and one would do it the next, I think that's a brilliant idea.
With the idea that they'll organise it,
They do it.
They take the
pay
money,
for it, they take the money.
They
Yeah.
do.
That makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
I'm all in favour of that.
So do I need to put that to a vote or can we? No. So we'll approach the Heritage Group and the Women's Institute and offer them just 4 tables down here and they can do it. And if they want to sell cakes or whatever, that's done. So what I was going to say is I'll get together with Michelle and start doing the publicity, and if everyone's happy with that, and then I'll put out a request to councillors to volunteer for a couple of hours. So just to reiterate, it will be set up on the Friday, some sort of social evening on the Friday evening for a couple of hours. Then we would open on the Saturday 9 till 5, Sunday 10 till 4, and then pack down on the Monday. So
This is the art exhibition.
And what date is that?
August bank holiday weekend.
What is that?
I think it's called 20.
It's 20 something, right? 21.
Yeah.
Someone my doesn't stop till by, so.
Off the time.
Must be the, what day is it?
Oh, some bank
Last
holiday
year-
is Monday
last
the
weekend.
29th.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
26th to the
Yeah.
29th. Was there anything else that you think we need to bring up on that?
Not particularly, we can go collect the boards, etc.
Yes, so we've got, oh, another thing which, I don't know if you might help in this, is one of the things she said was just nice to have a little
27,
quiz sheet for the children
29,
with, which
Sorry?
is the brightest painting.
Quiz sheet.
27, 28.
You know, which is it, so when the children are here with family, they've got something to do, just, you know, walking around, just a little questionnaire. So that was one other thing. Okay, anything else on the art exhibition then? Are we?
Does the banner on Queen Square system work? That seems to be a good way of getting word out, or not?
What's everyone else think about banners on the Green Square?
I think it's useful.
I think it's the
I think
best
you
way.
need more, but that's the sort of the baseline.
I mean, the amount of people it will reach, because not only do you drive past there, you walk past there, it's extremely high, you know, traffic. So I think it would be a good idea.
The problem we have is historically there's been some issues with banners on the square, and one way we could get around this is, I think if we're going to do it for ourselves, we have to allow other organisations to
Yes, I agree.
to organise, you know, to publicise events. But one of the issues, this is my personal view about putting things on the square, which yes, it attracts, you know, and also like you could put things on the church railings and all this, is I think they can look a bit tatty if they're not put up properly. And one option would be to construct a proper frame to put them on. I know where in Mumsley they do have an actual wooden frame that, as you drive into the village, these banners are actually put onto that specific frame, so they're held on properly. And that would be, but I think if we're going to do it, I'll start publicising our own events. We need to make it available to the.
See, I think that's an absolute, sorry.
I was just going to say, if we're going to say that community groups, etc., can put banners up there, I think rather than just say you can do it, it's they can do it with permission.
With
so
permission.
they bring the banner to the council, yeah, to get permission, and then things that go up without approval.
That's my worry, that it would become a free for all.
Yeah.
What I can see also problems happening is the fact that, you know, with so many groups, you know, you're just going to have an endless amount of banners going all around. So you are going to have to limit it. So you only allow one up or two up at once. So it's going to be a bit tricky.
Having lived through the Queen Square banner war,
Yeah.
I would hate to see banners to start going up there again. It might start off all nice, but then they get tatty, people don't take them down, they distract from the beautiful square we have, because when you're coming in, you see tatty banners, you lose all that lovely, which is the jewel, and I, for one, would not like to see banners back in Queen Square.
So,
I mean, also banners would be pretty redundant when we have the newsletter going out to every single property.
and then you know,
because
but
we will have them on there.
go, Joey, and then Roger.
5 years ago, just come up there. And I voted because it did look a mess. My brother voted against it, and I still hold us there. It just said, no. You got a square out there that absolutely jewels community. You start putting banners around there. I mean, we put the book banner around, you know, on the front there. Well, it was only up for 2 days, time got up there. But it weren't nice. You can't see that garden.
That's a fair point.
So, you know, I think no.
Councillor,
I think it's, as you said, good, it's a central point. I think lots of people complain, well, I didn't know about it when it is there. However, it's got to be policed. It has to be policed. And the thing that worries me is that it will be down to Michelle and her team to say yay or nay to something, to make sure it's taken down. I mean, there's a lot of work. But if it's going to go up, it's got to be policed.
Can I just make a comment? I disagree slightly with some of the comments that have been made. I would hate to see banners and posters all over Queen Square. You just ruin it. Fully support that. However, these rules get put in place because of, and you see it everywhere, banners getting left, posters getting left, they go tatty, they don't get down, no one ever takes them down. We've done 2 events that we've put a banner up for. We did the book sale and we did the one at the skate park. And I personally put the skate park one and made sure it was all tall and tight. And then the next day, we made sure it came down. I don't see why, if we occasionally, and we're talking 3 or 4 times a year, want to put something on for a community event on our own railings, on our own land, why we have to allow other people to.
No, I totally agree with you. I don't object to these going up because, you know, Johnny Wilder, people have properly and taken down. But as long as it doesn't give the leeway,
No,
all the tatty posters
I don't
and
think that it has
signs.
to. It's town council events.
Yes.
When we're raising money for community events,
Yes.
we will use our own railings. But otherwise, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
we don't allow it.
I'm happy with that, yeah.
Everyone happy with that?
Yeah, I'm more than happy with that, yes.
Do we think that we need to actually put this down somewhere in writing?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm happy
That's
to
a
do
policy.
that. I'm happy to do a banner
That is a
policy.
good
If you could, and then we can say
Banner.
Banner policy, yeah, your policies for everything.
But
There
at
is
least then
actually
we can
writing.
say when we are approached by other community groups, this is, and within the policy that there's a specific time that these banners are allowed to be up for.
And they are for the town council's community events.
Yeah, that's my view, is that if anyone
Yes.
asks me, I would simply say, no, we do our own, because we put them
Yes.
up, we put them down, and
Yeah.
therefore we
Yeah.
can do so.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah,
Councillor Ellis.
They did put one up for the fire service because they're having a hard job of recruiting, retain fire. I mean, it come down to the fire station here was about to close because they couldn't start it. So they come to us asking if we, because they knew there's a ban on banners on the square. And they asked the council, they were right there, if we could put it up. And we said, yeah, because that's an asset to the community. Which it was, you know, with big town now. And there's going to be more, and you need a fire service in it. And that was up for a certain length of time.
I would suggest that is a community event that we could cover in the policy.
Yeah. So as well as
And it
community
wasn't-
It is
events,
a case of that.
Sorry, Councillor
You're
Williams.
fine.
Councillor Dowling, then Councillor Williams.
it wasn't taken down and got very tatty.
Yeah.
It's now displayed, a big one in the fire service,
Is it?
so it's, yes, there's a big one in the fire station. Yeah,
Sorry, Councillor Williams.
so as well as community events, if we do it for anything we deem that would be a benefit for the community, like the example with the fire service. Because that would have been, if they hadn't got that, that would have closed down, that would have been a real shame.
no, not that. How many, is it proven, can I ask, how many actually recruited through that banner? I would be interested to know.
The other thing, I spent,
Shall I just not do a banner? Would that be?
No,
Yeah, I
no,
think
no.
no banners apart from
we should-
town council banners.
that's fine, Councillor
Yes.
Smith and then Councillor Don.
You seem to have deviated somewhat
Yeah.
from the update on the art exhibition, because I'm looking at banners on my agenda.
Yeah, well, this is something that there wasn't last time, so, Councillor Don.
I was going to say that, I think it is for the policy to be written.
Yeah.
And then we can move on.
I will just say, I spent 12 years working in advertising, and it is a fact that, as Councillor Davis pointed out, when you see something, a banner, and you see it more than a couple of times, you then don't see it
No,
anymore.
you don't.
You know, so that's why there should be a time limit. But then what we're all forgetting, sitting here, is we've now got some fabulous new notice boards coming. And so there will be other places
Yes.
for
Yeah.
communities to publicise their events, to keep the square how it is. So if everyone's happy with art exhibition, I will move on to community newsletter update, which, as I brought up in Matters Arising, that needs to go on to the next month's agenda. Remembrance service, I know it's a way off, but trying to get ourselves together for that. Obviously, this is a British Legion-led event. I have had conversation with Councillor Tyra about organising this. My understanding is that the club has already done the road closures for it. Is that correct?
Yeah, because the road closure and risk assessment are the same every year.
We have, at the Jubilee celebration, I spoke to the Bugler and said, was she happy to come and bugle? And also, briefly mentioned to Councillor Tyler, I'd be interested to see what everyone else thinks about approaching the Piper.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's something we need to approach the Piper. The other thing which needs to be an agenda item for the next meeting is the PA system, because, and also we need to think, which again, we need to be guided by the British Legion and Councillor Tyre on this, is last year, sadly, we couldn't really hear what Matthew was saying, and the choir from the church. And if we're going to have a PA system set up around the memorial, then we may need to rejig where they stand because of run leads, etc. So if we could put that as an agenda item for next month, because we need to hire some equipment.
One year we had a PA system, but we still stood where we always stand.
So that must have been, I wonder whether
It was a PA system, but we stood exactly where it's never varied. All the years I've lived here, it's always been there.
So-
We did have it about 3 years ago. We had a PA system, and it somehow was on the back.
what, near the crab?
No, the other side, on the opposite side, behind us. The speakers were behind us, but can you remember, Joe? I don't know, because we definitely had a PA
I
system.
can remember, I don't know what the PA system, it was a microphone.
Yeah, yeah.
And you could hear,
Your
well,
speakers would
something
have been-
everybody could hear.
If it had a radio mic, had the pickup.
It was a radio mic, wasn't it?
I don't know what it was, but we did have sound, so it
You won't be
doesn't.
able, you won't be
I
able
was
to use
thinking about
the-
moving the parade. You can't move the parade.
No, the where Matthew stands to do them, to do his talking bit. But yeah, but anyway, that's something we need,
Yeah.
the logistics of that. Does anybody else have any comments they want to make about remembrance celebrations?
As long as we don't tread on the British Legion's toes.
No, but that's why we said we speak to Ed and get together on that. Community book sale, obviously we've got the art exhibition coming up first, but because we had a considerable amount of books left at the last sale, my personal suggestion is that we don't start asking for books too soon, so we don't get too many, because we've already got some. The other thing I'd like to put forward is the idea that I put out a shout out on social for trying to get some members of the community to come along and join us with the setting up and running of this. I'm doing what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, I think, didn't we have an idea that we could slowly nurture it and then let it run?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
So
I think that's sensible.
So although I don't think it's wise to start particularly asking for books. I mean, I have been offered some more, which obviously we're going to collect this soon. I do think maybe it would be worth starting to recruit people to come along and help us with it. Anybody else got any comments?
Were the Funfest team interested or not?
Well, I did put it to them, but I think they're sort of doing other things, and I will go back to them and see. I mean, that's obviously one option. I know that the school has said that they would be interested in the academy and getting involved as well. Some of their literature students would be happy to get involved. So
We don't really want a group that would be happy to take it on and run it as their own and making profits from it.
what do people think about possibly then putting something like that out on social? Now we've run two, and we've looked to move this into a community run down. If there's any community groups out there.
Needs to be clear what's happening with the money raised, the town council organising it. This committee then has ownership of that money to allocate to whatever causes. If you get a separate group of people and we effectively go hands off on that group of people will legitimately want us some say in where that money is.
I think if a community group is organised, then it's not, they keep the money.
Yeah.
You know, and it's an excellent fundraiser, because there's not many fundraisers that can generate that sort of money. Although it doesn't seem a lot to us, to a community
It is.
group,
But, yeah.
to run a 2-day
Mhm.
event and raise that sort of money, without, you know, doing these little coffee mornings and different things, just, you know, an event. So there is the possibility, but then of course we'd come up, obviously we run it in the town hall, and, you know, would we charge them rent for the town hall?
Also, we'd be losing that funding stream that we can then allocate to local groups. So
Yeah.
yes, one group, if they're planning to take it on, they'll get benefit from it, but other groups will then potentially suffer. Although I'm aware that that hasn't been a massive jump of people clawing for money in the first place.
No, because we used the money for the Jubilee. But another option, I suppose, would be to try and get a community group to run it with us. And then, you know,
The divide between the different groups.
halfway hand, you know, that might be.
Yeah, I think if you have one group running it, you know, they're going to be doing it on the regular for themselves, and you know, other community groups will lose out. There might be smaller community groups which need the money funding, and they'll find it hard to find another way to fund their group. So, you know, that's
Can I suggest that we just find out what interest is out there?
Yeah, that we'll put the feelers out.
Yeah, put the feelers out,
Yeah.
because then we can look at the various options. But
Yeah.
it's, you know, at the moment, it's either we do it or someone else does it, but
Yeah.
we're not quite.
My
there
only
at the
comment
moment,
as
are we?
staff would be, whilst I fully accept that it's a really great revenue stream, we're now looking at doing art exhibitions. There's a lot of, I think, ambition from this committee to do a lot of different events, and we have to be realistic, because it does impact, you guys work really hard, but it does impact the staff as well, especially the book sale and the moving of all the books, which pulls my guys off doing groundwork. It's weighing up how much we can do ourselves and how much we need to say, we've set this up, somebody else can have it now.
And I think on the volunteers side, that when we used to run these in Kemble, we had 5 ladies, 5 people putting books out. We had 5 chaps that used to go and collect all the books. Well, at the moment, we're using our brands team to go and move the books. You know, so if we could get volunteers from the community to do that, because that's what takes the time, is actually getting the books from storage and bringing them over here. They've got a truck that took 2 or 3 runs, which is about what you'd expect, but then you need people here setting up. So if we could get,
Then if we're using the groundsman to go and get the books, to bring them back here, how much time is that taking? So how much of our profit
is paid. Yeah.
is paying the ground staff? You know, so it's, so the profit isn't as great as we think it is, because we've lost the ground staff for a couple of hours or however long it is, which is that false economy, you know, I mean, should we be doing that?
I suppose it goes back to, is this, are we doing this to make money, or is it a community event? You know, if we were doing it to make money, we would charge more for the books. But is this an event?
If it's a community event, surely the community should be collecting the books, not the paid ground staff, when they should be doing the work they're all moaning hasn't been done. So, you know, it swings and roundabouts. I don't think we should be using ground staff for that sort of thing.
But if we put the feelers out then and see what help we can get, just need someone with a lorry, really. You could do it in one big hit.
Well, I've offered many times to go and collect them in my dark. I haven't been taken up on it, so there are volunteers out there.
Yeah, right. So we reckon. Okay. Anybody else got anything to say on book sale? Town trails. Councillor Smith, you discovered this.
So the idea of these town trails were something that people could find out how to get around the town, and interesting thing. Breckland have already done something. It's called Breck World. It's an app, and it's been around for about 3 years. It's narrated by Stephen Fry. However, I've not been able to get it working on my phone. Debbie's tried, she's not been able to get it working either. So in theory, there is something there that works, only at the moment we haven't been able to get it working.
Does it specifically focus on?
It's done by Breckland, So it's on the Brecon Thames. And I wanted to look at it to try and find out, what it's about. It was advertised in the most recent Brecon magazine that we all got, and we all happily read, I'm sure. But that was one of the things in there, and I remember it. And when I saw it in the agenda, I went back to try and find it and load it up. And it turns out I'd already loaded it once and deleted it because it didn't work, and I still can't get it working. So by all means, have a go and see if you have some success with it, because it's interested to know if that's doing the sort of thing we want. I don't know yet.
What's it called?
I think it's Breckworld.
Breckworld.
I've got the app, I just can't log into it.
Councillor
Yeah, there's quite a few residents that do their own trials. Some of them walk as many as 10 miles around. Yeah. I've got 3 people, 2 are definite, that would be interested in participating in setting up, because they do different walks, and that they can walk from Asbrook out to Old Buckingham around, and, it's amazing how much walk. But at the same time, if we do it, what would be good is if there's any sort of like historical places or that en route, to advertise them as well, to encourage people to,
I know the Heritage Group have already got some ready to roll. They have done various
Right.
historical, but maybe on those ones, could we get together with these people?
Yep.
And again, we can.
I'll be seeing one of them tomorrow anyway, so.
Okay, so we'll, maybe next week sometime, if you get in touch and we'll get something down. Because we could put this on. I'll speak to anybody else going on trial, Councillor Redfern.
Just out of curiosity, are we going to have like a numerous amount of trails and on different topics? So like you have a trail that's more like on the scenic route where you go around and it's when you're walking, like for example, the dog and you're taking them out, just to go around maybe the sort of in the direction like field where you're not in the middle of town. So you're sort of outside in nature, and then we'll have another trail that more focuses on the history of the town and heritage sites and stuff like that. Is that what we're trying to sort of look for in these trails?
My understanding is that the new website will have this for this, like I said, and personally, I live on Halfton Road, obviously down that end of town, and there's a lot of new development, and you get a lot of people saying, where can I go for a walk? And it could either be a walk that's suitable for the dogs, suitable for with young children, so really anything and everything, but then we can theme them as that. And as I said, I know that the Heritage Group have already got some ready to go on there. Peter, we have discussed this before we got garden one. So I would suggest, and I know I have to chat with somebody about cycle routes as well, and obviously once we get the linear path, that will be. So we need to start with something and let it grow. So the easiest route in is to get a few on when we launch the website, so that we can add to that. And again, I think it's a case of getting people such as yourself, who you've already spoken to, in and say, okay, we've got these ones, we've got the Heritage Group, anybody else got any, and start to share amongst themselves.
Yeah, there was, I looked on Wyndham, search Wyndham, and up came Norfolk. Norfolk put together a series of walks around Wyndham, and it links in with other towns as well. And it links in with the Tass Valley walkway, which there was a sign here that you could get onto it from here. I don't know what's happened to it. But the whole thing was put together by Norfolk County Council and various interest groups in the same way that you described various interest groups. But it was Norfolk County that put it together. It's a bit dated now. But that's the sort of thing, if you want to go looking for that, because it's got different types of walks, but also it's got points of interest and uplinks. So that would be the perfect sort of model, really.
And which side of that was on Norfolk?
Well, if you go on, just look up Wyndham.
Oh, it's on, yeah.
And it comes up with the Norfolk County Council walk. But when, again, it's funding, isn't it? It's funding for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I should imagine that would have been an initiative of some sort, because you had biodiversity people, all other various people getting involved. But yes, and I was searching for Attleborough in that, and I couldn't see it.
I shall investigate. Anything else on town council? Yeah, Councillor Redfern.
I was just wondering, so these town trails, are we just going to put them on the internet and then say this is the route you take, or are we going to, like, in other trails around Norfolk, they usually have a post and it tells the direction in which the trails are going. Are we going to do something like that? So just a wooden post, which is usually about, you know, not very tall, no taller than waist height, which just has, you know, the direction, whatever it is, the cycle. If we're going to do one about cycles, one about dogs, one about the heritage, you know, are we going to do anything like that? Or is it just on the internet or?
Quite a nice idea, actually, probably costly, but.
Yeah, good plan, Councillor Wenham.
I was under the understanding that one is going to be on the website and also put into the newsletter.
Yeah.
So, you know, every house will get one. Every time we do a newsletter, we do a different walk and that in the.
On this, what Councillor Redfern was talking about is that, first of all, we have to bear in mind, we do have a budget as an Events and Communications Committee, of which we haven't spent much at all. If we're going to start looking at major projects like proper trails with posts in, that's something that we can look at, which even like, when, I don't know if anybody goes to the woods at Harling, there's only about 3 trails there, but they've been there for years, and like with the yellow band, you know,
The green one,
there's the green one.
and the blue one.
Yeah, and even if we only manage to do 2 or 3, that would be better than nothing. But also alongside that, we have the new website where we can very easily put trails on for little cost. But I think as a committee, which was something I was going to come on to, we need to start looking at how we're going to invest this money. I know we're going to do the newsletter, but we have got a budget to spend on events and communication, and it's this type of thing that we should be looking at doing, even if it is only to start with 1 or 2, just as a starting point for it. And yeah, the link between communication and events, and these will be permanent. So, yeah. Anybody else on that? So we will look into that one more. Public participation. Correspondence. We have correspondence.
Yeah, I've had 2 bits in. The first one is from John Taylor, who does our litter picking, the man that's always volunteering.
Yes,
That
yes.
lovely man.
Yes.
He asked if I had looked at all at having a war memorial themes, and I have. I've only managed to get 1 quote back at the moment. Not all stonemasons want to do it because of the height and the scaffolding. He asked if we would be happy for him to assist me with that, so I said yes. He'd very much like to help with anything for the war memorial. And the second one I'll read you, which is really sweet. Dear Events Committee, thank you all for organising such a lovely day on Saturday for the Jubilee. I know what hard work it is to organise such a large event. The atmosphere was very family orientated, just what was needed. The brownies in the parade said that they liked everything. Added to that, we raised £240 on our stall, which was very much needed addition to a depleted bank balance owing to COVID. Your hard work was very much appreciated, and that's from the brownies.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
That's
That's another example of a community group that really appreciate raising some money. You know, in it.
They've all got their fundraiser badge,
Yeah.
If I can, I had the pleasure of doing the floats and the marching groups for the carnival, and I did choose First Apple Grow rainbows because they made their own little butterfly wings. And I got to present the shield and the rainbow leader, that's what they're called. She was near to tears, bless her, because they're so excited. So yeah, it means a lot, doesn't it?
Yes.
So yeah, they were very good.
I did think the parade itself on Jubilee Day, it was like the Pied Piper, leading them. And there were comments on social media, a lot of the scouting movement children, i.e. the brownies, and it was that some of their first ever parade and first ever march, and they were so proud that they've been able to actually to do that, and that, there's something that didn't get much money. That's lovely.
I would like at a future meeting to propose that we have a presence in the parade next year. After town council. After the town council should be in the parade next year.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, no one's doing that.
I've given up parades, I've done it for enough years.
Put it on the agenda.
I'll take it on if you do.
Just out of curiosity, what would the float be about?
I've no idea, but I think we could just give out sweets.
Yeah, I did think actually, I mean, I'm guilty, I wasn't around yesterday, but I did think maybe we should have had the gazebo with some signs up, and we should have had a presence as a town council at the carnival.
Well, yeah.
You know, I think, you know, some sort of. Right, any other business that the chair feels is urgent, you're not going to like this, but I'm going to say it, Christmas. Right.
Oh, humbug.
It's July.
I know it's July.
That's my response.
I know it's July, but we have obviously the Christmas carnival and which are on lights. Do we want to put a disco on for the little ones at Christmas, like we did for the Jubilee?
Well, it was well received, I believe, at the Jubilee. However, you know, a lot of it falls down to Vera, so I think Vera can.
Another suggestion, which also falls down to Vera, would be that I think I'm right in saying that most schools have their own Christmas disco.
Yes, they do.
But if there was a Christmas event and we did say craft for the children in here, that is also something that's really popular.
Yes, it is.
Glitter.
Glitter. You'd have to speak to Reg nicely, because if I did anything like that, there'd be glitter everywhere and sequins and dough.
Well, I would
And
be happy to help you with that because I love Christmas.
I just sort of think the other thing I was going to ask as well was the Ignite event for you with the fire pit event. It was so
yes,
well
it was
received.
good. Was
And,
good.
and I know that obviously there's the Christmas carnival there, but I'm wondering whether we should ask them if they would like to do something on the square in the, you know, leading up to Christmas.
In the middle of the snow.
Yeah.
Love it.
Something, but also likewise, if they're prepared to do something for the youth, if we could do, even if it is a craft session for the children, it's just, I think if we need to book, make sure this hall's available and, you know, and look at, and I know it's months away, but if we do it now and then, because it was, Councillor Bond said, the discos were well received, the crown making was well received, and
Can I just say, if I do a craft in here, I'm not having parents, because when they were doing the crowns, the
Yes.
poor children were not allowed to put things where they wanted. Their parents told them where to put it. So it'd be parents banned.
So what if we have a mums and dads and other guardians table and we say, if you would like to do one, you can
No,
pay
bring
£1
it-
to do
No,
one,
bring
free
the
for
children, drop them, come back and collect them.
so we're
Same
looking
as a
at
disco.
a craft afternoon and Ignite
Crafting.
crafternoon.
Crafternoon,
Christmas
whoa.
crafternoon. Oh, I like it. Christmas
Depends on
crafternoon. Christmas crafternoon and approach Ignite about if they want to do something. Anybody else got any thoughts about? That's amazing. Afternoon.
Should actually be crafting.
Yeah, crafternoon, about Christmas. Again, I suppose for the Christmas carnival, we should probably have a presence there.
Well, I didn't know if that would fit with that, because is there anything normally in the hall?
I don't know, I do a tombola for
Oh,
cancer
yeah,
on
okay, Christmas
craft,
carnival.
always have done for the
Okay.
last 20 odd years.
Okay.
So. I
My
would do
thoughts
that.
on doing something for the children would be that, Councillor Day will verify that lead up to the day they break up is a nightmare, isn't it?
Yes,
It
it
is
is.
just chaos. So to do something maybe on the Sunday afternoon or something to give the parents an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah.
When, you know, it's not the chaos it's built. So we need to look at diary dates and see when would be suitable. And likewise, for, if the Ignite would like to do something for you. And the other thing is for those who weren't at the skate park thing last week, this is going ahead and they are going to be wanting to do some sort of official opening for that when that happens, which my understanding is could be, you know, within the next sort of 3 months.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that the designers whose name escaped me,
That was Paul from
Gravity.
Gravity are very keen to be part of that as well, and they do have some good contacts in the the sport. And I think they'd be really up for contributing to that and organising that.
That'd be great if we just support them and do whatever
Yeah.
is needed.
Yeah.
Because that is what was apparent from this consultation last week was how, I don't know if I'm particular or something, but we were talking to the youngsters, how far they travel to your decent skate
Yeah.
park. You know,
Yes.
they go to Kings Lynn, they go to Norwich. So if they're political, they go all over the place to find a decent skate park. So the fact that there's now going to be this all singing, all dancing one here, likewise means we're going to be attracting people
Next to the train station.
Yes.
to the train station. You know, so that's so I think as a town council we can do to encourage that. But that's all my only other business. Date and time next meeting will be the second week in August.
Chair, could I just ask something? It's with Christmas, you know, with that's the square, and with various other things. One thing I think that would be a good idea, and I don't know whether anyone is working on it, they've got to be working on it, is to actually have an annual diary of events for the square. So it just roughly, you know, it doesn't have to be specific, but at least then it can get in people's diaries. We can advertise it generally, it comes out into the newsletter, and then people know what's happening on the square, because what came to me was when we had the Platinum for Jubilee present set, people, because they knew something was in the square 2 days in a row, you know, they turned up, and it was lovely, and it was a great mix. But that's because they knew something was in the square. And like most things, if you know that every third Tuesday of the month or something's happening, then that starts getting into people's psyche. But whether we've got enough events to fill the whole year, I don't know, but it would be good to have that on a regular basis. So it's just a, you know, a headline thing, and then we can do specifics afterwards. I don't know whether that is something that's on your agenda or not.
It was certainly something that's on the agenda to have on the new website, that we have an events calendar, so anyone can go on and sort of look what events are going on throughout the year. You're also right in saying we probably don't have quite enough yet, but this is quite a new committee, isn't it? And I think we're getting more used to what it takes to put things together, and it's going to get easier to plan with a bit of experience, isn't it?
I think the use of the square as well, historically, Councillor Bell, you know, this is relatively new, isn't it, having this
Yes.
amount of events?
Yes, they used to say there was 12 events only allowed on the square, and there was a covenant on there, and, you know, it was very protected, and people weren't happy for the square to be used as a general community thing, which is lovely. It's, you know.
I think that also the pedestrianisation of this area
Yes.
has helped it and made it much more of a usable space,
Yes,
hasn't it?
yes, it
And a
has.
secure space to have various events. So yeah, yeah. So that's it then. 8 o'clock. Give it longer than that.
Can I just go back to Councillor Bond? When we first started, or when the events committee first started, we had something for every month of the year put in the diary. But it's no good putting it out if you haven't got everything organised.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
luckily it hadn't gone out because a lot of them had to cancel for various reasons.
Oh, okay.
So that is the thing I would worry about, because if
Yeah.
you put it in, you've got to make sure you do it, and if it goes flop, then people don't come to the next thing. So
Yeah.
we did, am I right?
Yeah,
we
that's
did, we had a
right.
lot
We
of
did
things.
less, but we did it better.
Yes, we did less, but it was, yes, I agree with you.
It's a learning curve, like we didn't manage to do the pancake race, which is something that, yeah, I think we can for the season in February, we can do that now that we've run a few events and again, you know, get more of an input. So, Councillor Redford.
Just thinking about what Councillor Dale said, with the fact that we had to cancel a few, if we then instead do a yearly plan of the most important events, like if there's a Christmas event or anything like that, that is definitely going to happen and it's going to be a big event. If we put them on, and then just if we do have a small event that does go ahead, then we will update it and then put that out. But at least have a yearly one of the big ones, big events we have, so that they are recorded, maybe.
And also, of course, we're now going to have our new notes board, so we will be able to publicise. Okay, I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
You should be able to just press end.
I just don't.
There is.
Your stream will stop immediately. But
Again,
Yeah, that's it.
end.
Say no.
Thank you.